Hey, this is Tyler with T-Jack Survival. Today I'm going to talk about an interesting but also very technical subject. What gives me the ability during an SHTF situation to communicate? What can I get that gives me off-grid power and off-grid communications? Meaning I can't plug it in and it shouldn't be dependent upon some sort of communications background like a cell phone system. So with that criteria, it's got to be portable, it's got to be a system that stands alone, both on a power network side and on a communications backbone network side. The only thing I can think of that really answers both of these needs and gives me around the world communications is ham radio, HF ham radio. So what I've got today is a couple of interconnected systems that you can use standalone that I'm going to put together as one system with HF radios. I've got Bioenno power, I've got Powerfilm solar panels, and I've got an HF or high frequency ham radio rig that I'm going to talk around the planet with right now. So bear with me. Okay, let's build this system from the ground up. The first thing that you're going to need is power. The second thing that you're going to need is a battery bank to keep that power. Because with a solar panel, I have electricity during the day, but not at night. So if I combine the Powerfilm 60-watt solar panel I've got with the Bioenno 12-volt, 15-amp-hour battery pack that I've got, I essentially have, with conservative power usage, electricity and communications 24 hours a day. All I've got to do is keep this Powerfilm panel plugged in, slurping up that solar energy during the day and recharging my battery, which I can use all night long. If all I'm doing is listening, I can listen 24 hours a day, no problem. I can go weeks just on listening power alone from this battery. If I'm listening and transmitting, the amount of time that I can transmit substantially decreases dependent specifically on how many watts I'm transmitting. If I'm transmitting on 25 watts, I'm going to have a logarithmically larger amount of electricity and time that I can transmit when compared to 100 watts. What that means is the higher the wattage goes, drastically the higher the electricity requirements go up. So in a nutshell, the higher the wattage, the more juice it's going to use on a much larger scale. The lower the wattage, the more time you're going to have to communicate around the world. So let's plug this stuff in. Another thing you've got to remember when combining these two is if you're going to use a LiFePO battery like this, okay? LiFePO, which is lithium iron phosphate battery, you need to have the right kind of trickle charger. Essentially, batteries either charge with constant state or pulsing state, and each battery needs a different type of charging unit. So make sure when you get the Powerfilm panel, you get the right power charger for the battery type that you're using. So I've ordered this guy right here, and it gives me a little bit more length. I really like the length that I can get. Because that gives me the ability to stick my panel up in a tree, over in the sun, wherever it is that I want, and put my battery close to my transmitting unit. So with these Bioenno batteries, I'll be able to plug straight in, okay? And it has a tender inside of it. That's kind of plug and forget, which is really nice. This tender will keep it from overcharging and from undercharging, from overexpending its power. Okay, now I've purposely picked a location that kind of sucks, okay? The reason why I did that is to illustrate a point. With the technology that you get from the Powerfilm, it is essentially a bunch of minimal baby solar panels all daisy chained together. In other manufacturers like currently Goal Zero, it's one big solar panel. Why this matters, okay? If I have shadows crossing over this panel, it's not going to be issues. It will create less electricity, but it won't shut off. When I get shadows over the legacy technology that you find on some of the previous Goal Zero type panels, the whole panel shuts off. So that's important to note. If you're going to be in a shaded area like a jungle, like I was last year, where I tried to use Goal Zero and I had constant failures because I didn't have direct and constant sunlight to the entire solar panel, that's going to come to play. And that's something you really need to think about is, will I have direct constant sunlight over the entire panel, or will I have shade? If I've got shade that covers any portion of the solar panel, even though I'll lose a little bit of electricity, it will still charge. With a panel like this, it won't charge with some of the other panels. So right now I've got 13.2 volts being pushed in from this 60-watt panel, half in the shade and on top of a tree. That's enough for me to consistently use this on a regular basis. Ideally, I would move this up a tree, put it somewhere that's sunny, but for now I want to put it here to illustrate that point. Okay, the next thing that I have to have for this HF rig is an antenna. Now I have a buddy pole, it's one I just ordered online, I'll throw the links for that below. And this is a 20 and 40 meter buddy pole, which means that it will work on the 20 and 40 meter wave band. It's a vertical polarizing antenna, which, without getting too technical, is important to know. That only matters here within like 300 miles of where I'm at. Once it reflects off the ionosphere and starts bouncing around the planet, doesn't matter. My signal can be received with a horizontal or vertical polarized antenna either way. So let me get this guy set up real quick. Now with this buddy pole, I've attached my coil and my smaller pieces, and something I want to point out that's really important to have is this tripod. I could just put this coil and everything on a tree, but with the tripod I have the ability to go up above the trees, and when I can get above the trees, I significantly decrease attenuation. What that means is I significantly decrease RF loss once I get up higher and above the trees, right? Basically the trees are in the road and this gets me past those trees. Now this is, for all intensive purposes, what I'm going to call a dipole. A dipole is basically a two-piece antenna. Now it's not technically a dipole because it's not matched and all that stuff. I know you ham radio guys out there are losing your mind with me calling it a dipole, but essentially I've got one piece of the pole going this way and one piece of the pole going that way. And this matters. The reason why it matters is it gives me something that's kind of directional. So what I need to do is to decide, do I want to talk to California, Mexico, British Columbia? What direction do I want to go? And then I'm going to point this ground planing antenna or portion of the antenna in that direction in order to talk with them. Today I think I'm going to point it back east. Why not? I've got a mountain over here that's going to affect things. Maybe I can point it down that way, see who I can get. We'll try it out. Now with this, I've got a Yaesu FT857D, which is the type of HF radio I'm using, and a YT100 tuner. That tuner is going to compensate for whatever discrepancies I might have in antenna length, but I've also brought an antenna analyzer. So what I can do is analyze my antenna and make sure that my lengths are correct before even plugging it in. Then once I've plugged it in, I can use this tuner to kind of skip around on bands and compensate for my inability to quickly change the length of my antennas, and thus help me to transmit properly. So before I start pushing this up too far, I want to make sure that my 20 and 40 meters are correct. So I'm going to look at my frequency. I've got it set to 07250, which is in the 40 meter band. I'm going to scan that. Get out of here. And I see that I've got an SWR of 2.2, 2.3. That tells me that this is the right spot as compared to that. So if I move this up here, which essentially shrinks the length of my antenna, and I try this standing wave ratio again, I get 17.9. That's horrible. Pop this out, put it in down here, 2.3. It will improve as I get this ground plane off this other wire off the ground and get this all set up. But that lets me know before I put it up that I got this in the right spot. Now on a side note, this has some guy wires down here in a little blue bag. Normally I use them because the wind can knock this tripod over, but I'm only going to put this up for this video and try it a little bit, so I'm not really concerned about it getting knocked over. Let's hope that that doesn't become an issue. The other thing too that's interesting to note is that this kit that comes from Buddy Pole, you just twist this and pop it out, and it's adjustable. What that'll do is give you the ability to kind of level off your tripod, and that keeps your antenna from being crooked, and you don't want your antenna to be crooked because it'll tip over and break stuff. Okay, now that I've got all this stuff set up, and slide this out of the road a little bit, I also like to mention the fact that I have a 2-meter antenna. It's just a roll-up J-pole that I can attach to this other side. What that gives me is the ability to just flip a switch and jump bands clear from HF to 2-meter. So what I like to do usually is I'll attach that to the back right there and then just run it alongside of my actual pole. I'm not going to put that one up today because there's just no need to use a 2-meter right now. But it's just another good thing to note so that should you need that access to the other bands, you know that that's just a simple thing you can do. Okay, everything's hooked up. Now I just have to run the power. I like to do power last because it prevents any, you know, static and all that fun stuff from happening. And in just a few minutes, I've created a system that I can talk around the planet with, that stands alone with its own power supply and is not dependent upon any type of backbone or network in order for it to function. So, all right, now let's do some HF chatting and see who we can get a hold of. Right off the bat, I'm getting people. I just got to dial into them.
Friday, I figured you were working there at the vet, and then I figured well, probably the other days. And I'm going to pull the plug and get in the house and find out what Joanna's going to whip up for supper. So, Dick, I'm just going to pass it back to you because, like I say, I can't copy Frank anymore. You can turn it back to him to let him shut it down.
So we got one in North Carolina. CQ, this is KG7GIG in Orem, Utah. CQ, this is Kilo Golf 7, Golf India Golf, QRP in Orem, Utah. Got someone in Texas, New Orleans, and South Carolina. I am. I'm sorry. I was trying to drop in there, and I can't tell if anyone's even hearing me.
Not my frequency, but this is W2GOR near San Francisco, and you sound great.
San Francisco.
You're S9, over.
That is awesome. Thank you much. I'm on a FT857 Delta with a Buddy Pole. I got stuck up in the canopy here, and I'm just running off of a little battery QRP it's up in the front of Mount Timpanogos by Orem, Utah.
How many watts?
25.
Oh, great job. I just got a buddy stick around myself and the KX2. So I've been taking the kids to the park. And,
California, San Francisco.
Radio, so you're doing a great job.
That's very cool. I was just trying to see if I could get a hold of anybody. It tends to be when you're QRP that you can hear them, but they can't always hear you. So I think the magic solution with something like this is just lots of altitude.
Okay, there was a little bit of noise that time, but got you there. Let me just see if the original guys on this frequency still on the frequency. Anybody still there? All right, guess not. What's your elevation?
I'd have to look that up. I think I'm about 8,000 or 9,000 foot elevation currently. I basically drove up the face of a smaller peak called Squaw Peak that's on the front of Timpanogos Mountain.
Okay, I didn't catch you that time. How high is that?
I think it's 8,000 to 9,000 feet roughly.
Well, that'll help a little bit, right?
Yeah, without the elevation, it's really hard to get out QRP. It tends to be something you want to drive up really high, but if you get enough elevation, you can DX and talk all over the place.
Okay, getting a little hard to hear you now, but very good. All right, by the way, how's my audio over there? I just set up a new station.
You are crystal clear. I got no static. You're coming in strong.
Okay, good. Have fun. Be safe. Thanks a lot for coming back there, and stay cool this week.
Thank you. This is 73. This is KG7 GIG QRP QSL.
QSL W2GOR, clear.
KG7 GIG clear. That's a big long cut. Okay guys, I hope that's valuable to you. I just wanted to show you what's possible. Now, you do need to get education if you want to use ham radios. You have to get licensed. The best place I know is www.hamstudy.org. HAMSTUDY.org. You just log on, hit the flashcards until you've memorized your questions. That'll get you in as your technician. If you want to do HF or shortwave radio, you need to become a general. There are some frequencies you can use as a technician, but really the HF bands open up substantially, and you can do what I just did, only if you're a general. If you're interested in this gear, and I'm taking a lot of time to really process and decide what is the best for me, I had the criteria of it needed to be standalone, so I shouldn't be dependent upon any other systems. It needed to create a lot of power, enough power that not only can I run up to 100 watts on a mobile rig, but I can also repower handy talkies and flashlights and GPS batteries and all that other stuff, and my camera gear. This solar panel right here and that battery pack, this solar panel is made by Powerfilm. The battery pack is made by Bioenno. I use these for weeks at a time when I'm filming. This keeps all of my cameras going, my gimbals, my drones, all that stuff. I'm able to run off just this 60-watt panel and that battery as a backup. It's phenomenal having that as an option. I wish I would have known about it earlier. If you're interested in any of this gear, I'll leave the solar panel links down below. I'll leave the battery pack links down below. I'll leave you what links I can about ham radio, and I'll leave the link to the buddy poles. Again, it's going to take a little more education for the ham radio, but if you wanted to look at the solar panels or the batteries just as a power supply to run lights, to run basic communications, cell phones, all that stuff, and it's only just a couple pounds. I have not seen anything that is this lightweight and puts out this amount of power. It folds up small enough I can stick it in my bag, and the place I learned about this was through military applications. So this is military grade, super high-end stuff. Combine that with the Bioenno batteries, and that's two different companies. Combine those two together, you have ultralight, indefinite power. That is something that is so valuable when it comes to communications, photography, and everything else we're doing. Hopefully this is valuable to you. If it was, please hit the subscribe button. And thank you for watching TJack Survive.